Okay, let's look at file sharing and mapping network drives, two sides of the same coin. So let me describe a little process to you, and then we'll take a look and see how we actually do it. So there's basically several steps you want to go through. And again, we're working on a peer-to-peer network, right? So no supervisory control, right? You're in charge of what files and peripherals you share. So basically, sorry, my tablet's turned. Basically, the first step is, establish the share. So we want to create a folder that we're going to use to share data, right? So we're going to set that folder up first, right? Second thing is we're going to create a user specific for that share or for the purpose of sharing, right? Then we're going to give permissions for that user. And once we have all that set up, we're going to map the drive, right? So the first three, that occurs on what we'll call host 1. So the host that is doing the sharing. I have data, I want to share it with you. I'm going to do those first 3 steps. The map drive is going to occur on host 2, the computer that needs that information, right? So I'm going to use a VM to host my share, and then I'll use a physical PC to map the drive, right? That's the basic steps to getting file sharing to happen on a peer-to-peer network. Right? So let's take a look here. So we're going to do those 4 steps. So the first thing I want to do is create a file share. So let me open up File Explorer. Right. And on this PC, I'm just going to go right to the root of the C. So a new file folder. We all know how to do that. I'm going to call it FTP share. Now, notice I used camel case, right? Windows doesn't care in terms of the file folders, what's uppercase and lowercase, but other operating systems do, i.e. Linux. So start to get used to and make it a habit of using the case the same way all the time. You're going to name your file shares lowercase, always use lowercase. Right? In this case, I like camel case because I don't want spaces in my file shares. They can be problematic sometimes. Old school me, right? So I don't use spaces, I'll use underscores, and to keep typing lower, I'll sometimes use camel case, and that way FTP share is a way to, in my mind, to separate those words. So I've created the file share, right? So now I want to share it, right? I want to actually set up that share and create a user that's going to, use that share. So I'm going to go to Local User Manager. Let's make sure it catches up to me here. There she is. And this is no different than what we've done, several times before. Create a user. You notice I've created an FTP user. There she is. I'll look at the properties of that. I want to see member up. Notice they're only a user, not admin, not everybody. That's it. It's the only user they're part of. I also want to make sure that the user cannot change the password and the password never expires. Notice I've checked off the user must change password at login. Right? I don't want this FTP user logging into this machine. I just am creating this user so they have access to the share, period. Right? So we click OK. So now that that user is created, minimize this. Let's go back to my FTP share. I'll right click and choose properties. And now, so we've already done the sharing tab. Now let's go to the security tab, right? Oh, actually, we didn't do the sharing tab. Sorry. We're going to do a share, right? We'll just say share it. Boom. So now there it is. It's shared as the desktop name and FTP share. Okay. Now we're going to go to the security tab. Right? Inside the security tab, notice level 1's there. Anybody in the administrator group can access it. So if I know the level 1 password or I know the administrator password, I can access this share. The FTP user doesn't have access yet. So we're going to edit this. We're going to add. We're going to go to advanced, and we're going to do find now. And let's find the FTP user. There it is. Click OK. And now FTP user is part of the share. But notice the difference. Down here in permissions for FTP user, if I compare that to level 1, all the boxes are checked. Why? Level 1's the user that created the folder. By default, they are allowed to do whatever they want to the folder because they created it. Admins, because they're admins, are allowed to do whatever they want to whatever folder they have. Right? FTP, on the other hand, can only read and execute, so they can launch executables from that share and read files from it. They can list the folder contents. Think command prompt dir command, right? And then read, right? Same as read and execute. They could also just read the file, right? Write is blank, modify is blank, and of course full control is blank. This is as limited a power as you can give them, right? So we can actually uncheck list folder contents. Makes it kind of weird. They can't see the files in there, but they can read files if they know what they're called. I've done that on occasion. It's kind of fun. But for now, this is the limited set of policies for file sharing. So I'm going to click OK, right? And we're going to close. So now I have a file share set up. So that's the first 3 steps all done. So let's go into my physical machine. And here's my my file explorer on my physical machine. So I'm going to do this PC, and I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say map a network drive. Oh, let me go back here because you can't see that. I'll right click on this. Let me move the screen over a little bit so you can see it. Right click on it, and it says map network drive. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to map it. Let me move my camera back. So a couple things here. I need a drive letter. What drive letter do I have options for? Well, whatever is not currently used. If I choose one that is used, it'll overwrite. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do let me see. I'll do the S. Oh, I don't have an S. Sorry. Don't have S is not available. Although this it is. There it is. S is available. So I'm going to do S. Now, notice this format right here. The example below. So let me grab this guy and see if I can show you. That format right there is going to be important, right? Notice the double slash and then what they call server, right? When you read server, think host. So on a peer-to-peer network, there is no server. A server, loosely defined, is a host that's providing some sort of service. Well, right now, the host that's providing this service I want is the virtual, and it's sharing a file folder. So my host is my virtual. Now, I don't remember the name of the server, and without DNS, we may not be able to find that name. So we're going to forget the server name, and we're going to stick with IPs. IPs will never fail. That's how network works in the first place. So what it's really looking for is an IP address / and the name of the file folder or the shared resource. So those are the 2 things I need. So let's see what the IP address is. So I'm going to switch back to my virtual here. All right. And let me open a command prompt. There it is. And let's do an IP config and see what the IP address is. I've got it twice. The IP address is of this virtual machine. So it is 192.168.1.225. Okay, now I know the IP. So I'm going to go back to my file share here. And let's do that. There we are. So there's my IP, my host IP, and FTP share. Again, Windows doesn't care that it's camel case, but if you use it once, you might as well use it all the way through. Reconnected sign-in. If I want this share to be permanent, yes, I want to do that. And connect using different credentials. Remember, my physical machine, because it's on a peer-to-peer network, only knows its local users. It doesn't know FTP share because it's not local. So I have to tell the host, hey, I have credentials from your machine that I can use to access this share. So they're different from my machine. So check that box. I'll do finish. And there it is. So FTP user and my standard old password. Right? I can choose remember my credentials so that every time I access this share, it won't ask me for them. Click OK. And voila, FTP share is there. It opens up a new window, and there's drive letter S. So there's everything in that folder. Now, I'm going to try to create something in that folder. So I'm going to say new. I'm going to say folder. Right? Who? Can't. You need permissions to perform this action. Who's in charge of the permissions? The host is. Who's the host? Anybody sitting at that machine that has admin rights. Right? So that's creating a file share and mapping a network drive. Again, on a peer-to-peer, locus of control is at the local host. I don't have any power. All I can do is access what that local host lets me access. All right? So try it out. Try to create a file share and actually share or read files from it. Okay? If you have any questions, you know where I'm at.